Okay, so right now I'd like to introduce Sergeant Harris and Deputy Jackson to present information to us on the Captain's new 8-point zone crime prevention program.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Al, committee members. I'm Sergeant Darren Harris, as mentioned, with the Santa Cruz Valley Sheriff Station. On behalf of Captain Paul Becker and all the men and women of the Santa Cruz Valley Sheriff Station, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity tonight to present to you a very brief overview on our new crime prevention unit, which was formed under the direction of Captain Becker. And then we'll take some questions and talk a little bit about it. I'll also give you a little bit of a brief overview of what crime looks like right now in our communities. And we'll take some questions with Deputy Jackson as well as join me. Thanks, Jeff. Captain Becker, in March of 2011, we formed and launched the crime prevention unit at the Santa Cruz Valley Sheriff Station. After months of planning, this unit was formed in direct collaboration with the City of Santa Cruz and the County of Los Angeles and our partners at the station. Captain Becker, being that we are the 4th largest city in Los Angeles County and the 26th largest in the state of California, we average about 20,000 reports per year. We take about 55,000 calls for service throughout the Santa Cruz Valley. We patrol about 646 square miles. With all that in mind, Captain Becker realized the need to compartmentalize our law enforcement services. In other words, to break down our vast area by communities, or zones in this case, is what we decided to do. The entire Santa Cruz Valley was broken down into 8 color-coded numbered zones after careful consideration of how we could best look at those zones by number. And the goal was to, and is, to have our zone leaders. We formed 8 zone leaders under the crime prevention unit, deputy sheriffs, that can look at their zone specifically and review virtually every report of crime that has occurred in their zone for the previous week. Now, they are looking at it weekly. I'm looking at it as the operations sergeant of the crime prevention unit. I'm looking at it daily. And the purpose of doing that and breaking it down in such a compartmentalized way is that we can look at trends, we can identify perpetrators, we can identify what areas are having what types of crime occur, and we can get on that crime or nuisance problems and try and resolve them before they turn into a crime spree. Captain Becker wanted to ensure that we knew right away what the trends were in the various areas throughout the Santa Cruz Valley, and we do that through the zone leaders looking very closely at the crime. In order to do this and to launch this unit, to get it up and running, we had to ensure that we were able to look not only at our crime statistics, but virtually every report that the deputies were taking in the field, and then also be able to review those reports electronically or digitally. And we've moved along in forming the unit, and we're now capable of doing that. The zone leaders, virtually at their fingertips, they receive via email on a weekly basis. I receive them daily, a count of every crime that's been reported within the community. Now, that's reported crime. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's confirmed that those crimes occurred. Sometimes later we find that someone reports a crime and then they find, oh, my laptop was actually at home. I thought it was stolen. Those numbers will later fall off of our review. But we want to look now at reported crimes so that we can then start assessing it, analyzing it, and seeing how we need to best direct our resources within the community in order to resolve that crime. Okay. These number zones, they create identifiers, giving the deputies and the analysts the ability to scrutinize virtually every aspect of the crime, down to the minute details within the reports. Okay. And what this does is we'll meet on a weekly basis, all the zone leaders and the operational officials at the station, and then we can share information, and we ensure that way that if we can determine something's happening on one side of the valley and there's some consistencies with something happening on another side of the valley, we can put everything together through those meetings, and then the decisions are made as to what type of operations are going to be put in place to deal with those issues as to what kind of resources are going to be needed. And quite frankly, we're working on a development study right now, a deployment study, I should say, that is going to tell us where and how we need to best deploy in order to ensure the maximum efficiency for the service to the public here in Santa Clarita Valley. As part of this crime prevention unit, we're working in phases. Again, I mentioned we launched in March of 2011, but our role as a whole is still being defined. And as part of that, it's changing almost daily, for the better, but it is changing for the daily in order to see where we can best move in what direction. As part of that, we are developing a crime research center at the station in direct collaboration with the City of Santa Clarita. They're funding a crime research center for us. We've also had some community partnerships step forward. Princess Cruises has stepped forward with some desk systems at the station, and we are installing what's called a smart board. It's a technology, basically a large screen, 70-inch screen technology that's going to incorporate with a high-end supercomputer. And in the Crime Research Center, it will give the zone leaders the ability to review crime on a greater scale within the community, what's going on. And we'll be using a Google Earth crime mapping system, which when a deputy pulls a report number in the car, as I mentioned, there's 20,000 reports taken annually, that number will automatically pop up on our digital tracking system, using literally the Google Maps that you see at home if you use them when you're searching. And then we can see and analyze it, and the zone leaders can look at a snapshot on our smart board as exactly what's occurring in what areas. And again, they can break it down even further. We can look at graffiti, we can look at probationers and parolees, we can look at registered sex offenders, all in a virtual environment right on our screen. And we can collaborate, we can share information, and we can bring in other deputies and brief up our patrol deputies on exactly, give them that visual look as exactly what's occurring in their patrol areas. And ultimately, our goal is to reach out directly to the public with much of that same information that the deputies have in patrol, so that you can help us solve crimes. There's been a few examples of that. Since our launch already in March of 2011, we've identified a number of trends, not only here in the Canyon Country area, but throughout the Santa Clarita Valley. We identified an RV storage series of burglaries that was occurring in RV storage lots, and we've since solved that with arrests. We identified a number of pharmaceutical thefts and burglaries that were occurring throughout the Santa Clarita Valley in various pharmacies, and we've solved that. We've made arrests. We are currently have identified and are dealing with a catalytic converter theft issue, mainly at our park and rides here in Canyon Country area, some of them. So we're looking at that very closely and working toward getting that information out and resolving that. And catalytic converter thefts are basically, they cut the catalytic converter off of the bottom of trucks. Generally, they're pickup trucks like Toyotas, and they're a little higher off the ground. And they steal those catalytic converters and sell the titanium or the metal. We identified a residential and vehicle burglary trend in the Jakes Way area, and we've since solved that. We went from 9 in 1 week to 0 after we made our arrests. And we've seen 0. We saw 1 this week, so we're putting a big dent in that. We have identified some vehicle burglaries, window smash vehicle burglaries that were occurring at local businesses and some local gyms. I'm happy to report, although I can't give you a bunch of details, we solved that today with an arrest this morning at the LA Fitness here on the Canyon Country area. So we actually observed the perpetrator break a window and steal a woman's purse, and he is now in custody. And we're in the process of doing some other operational things right now as we speak. So you'll be hearing about that soon, but I can't give you a whole bunch of details. But I can tell you that we believe he's responsible for at least 40 of these in our community. So we're very excited about that. We have identified some burglaries in the Saugus area, what we term as a hot prowl burglary, which means that the burglar is entering a home when it's occupied in the nighttime or evening hours, and we're working operations right now to try and resolve that. We also, to cover a couple other trends, have identified there was some office store computer thefts, large quantity commercial computer thefts. We had a number of them. We identified that trend. There's arrests been made, since been solved. And then this is just since March with the unit, forming the unit. And we're currently working with our community partners and with our businesses and our local malls to combat shoplifting thefts. We've identified a trend there, and we're working with them closely to see how we, through crime prevention, through environmental design, and through our programs, can stop these shoplifting thefts and stop people from coming to Santa Clarita and do it. We've also identified, as of today, actually, something we're looking at very closely is some of the CVS stores. We're looking at some booster theft rings, which means these are rings that plan to go in and take certain items, and we're going to work to combat that. What I can say for the Candy Country area, I mentioned the 8 zones. The entire Santa Clarita Valley is broken down into 8 numbered zones that makes it easy for us in law enforcement and Santa Clarita Station to reference crime in the zones. It also makes it easy for us to compare how we're getting hit in one zone versus another. Is there overlap? Are we seeing trends that are occurring in one zone that carry over into another zone? So because it's such a large area and there is so many reported incidents that we handle, we needed to be able to look at that closely. The Candy Country area primarily encompasses zones 7 and 8. That would include county and city areas. We overlap. We don't look at the zones in that way. We look at it as zones 7 and 8. Those zones, I'm happy to report year to date for 2011 in comparison to 2010 for the same time period. For violent crime, we're down nearly 27% in zone 7 and 8. We're down for property crimes, we're down over 11%. And for our total Part 1 crimes, which are Part 1 crimes, we look at violent crime, which is homicides, rapes, robberies, and aggravated assaults. And for property crimes, which is burglary, theft, grand theft auto, and arson, we are down a total for zone 7 and 8 of almost 14% year to date compared to last year. As we monitor this crime rate and these reported crimes in comparison to last year on a daily and weekly basis, we are able to see immediately whether or not we're on track to be better than the year prior. And in doing that, we can ensure that we are best serving and protecting the public and deploying our resources adequately and appropriately to those areas. This is a very brief overview I've given you on the Crime Prevention Unit. With this Crime Research Center that we expect to launch either in late July or first part of August, we're going to have an open house, and we're going to show what the zone briefing reports look like. We have a weekly zone briefing report that's the first of its kind. We're going to show what our zone mapping is, because we are still tweaking and finalizing our zones. But you will be able to they will be made available to the public on the internet eventually, where you'll be able to put in your address and find out what zone you're in. We're going to be releasing a zone leader report, which will tell you what zone leader, deputy sheriff is responsible for your area with contact information, so that if you punch in your address, you can reach out directly to your zone leader with information or questions or concerns. It's not only crime that we look at nuisance problems, we look at anything that's affecting our community in terms of public safety and how we can help resolve those issues, whether they're criminal or nuisance in nature. That's kind of a real snapshot look at it, but we will be releasing this as we launch and hold our open house, and we'll partner with KHTS and Signal and various other community outlets to get that information out. And we hope to, as we reach out through Nixle systems, we hope to get people to sign up for our Nixle program, which is an internet-based system where we'll be able to reach out directly. We reached out on the LA Fitness, not only to the business leaders there on the LA Fitness and the other gym burglaries that were occurring. We reached out and they worked in direct partnership with us, and it was only because of that partnership that they observed a potential suspect, and that enabled us to work toward resolving it. And that was only because we reached out publicly and we reached out privately to them through meetings and gave them our cell phone numbers and said, hey, look for this. And we also reached out and put crime prevention signs at the actual fitness clubs that told the patron that, hey, you need to look and be aware of this type of crime is occurring. So it's only through working together through these partnerships, through the community partnerships, and under Captain Bechter's leadership, since he's come to the station, we've hit the ground running, and I think we've really made great strides in in breaking down crime in our community and being on the front end of what's occurring so that we can best protect you guys and serve you. So, again, I'm Sergeant Darren Harris. I'm going to take a few questions now. If anybody's got any questions, I'll be happy to answer what I can. And again, as we move forward with the Crime Prevention Unit, I'll be happy to give you future updates and have you into our home. Our goal is to, if somebody's got a problem in their community, our goal is if they get a group of people together, eventually we would like to set up an appointment. They can come to our Crime Prevention Unit, and we'll give them a complete overview of their specific neighborhood. And we'll bring them back into our new Crime Research Center and give them a complete digital overview of what's going on in their community. And when they leave there, they will feel like our hope, when we have them into our home, is that they'll feel like they're a true partner with the Sheriff's Department in protecting our community. Because we can't do it alone. 240 deputy sheriffs and other staff at the station can't do it alone with over 260,000 residents, 646 square miles. We need your help. We know it. We hope you know it. And we hope you reach out to us and continue to provide us with the great information that you do that helps us solve crime. Because we can't do it without you. And the perpetrators of these crimes, or the potential perpetrators, need to know that you don't come to Santa Clarita. You know, we like to use the term not Santa Clarita. So we want them to get the message. And by Captain Bechter's word, we're going to reach out and touch them and do that. So if we trace them back or track them back to another community, then Santa Clarita is going to pay them a visit. So I'll open it up now to questions, and I'll be happy to answer anything that any questions you may have. Yes. Just stand up, and if you can give me your name, that'd be great. And I can hear you. I don't know if the microphone's working.
Hi, my name is Kevin. I just wanted to ask a question about how do we go about addressing possible nuisance in your neighborhood, like maybe possible drug activity. You guys have been out to this particular house several times, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. So we're just wondering. I speak for the group here. Yeah. Absolutely.
I'll be happy to answer that for you. We will take, through our website, you can email me directly. There's an Ask Sergeant Harris link, and that's www.scvsheriff.com. If you email me directly, I ensure that it gets to your zone leader, number one.
Okay.
So as we're moving forward with the progression of the Crime Prevention Unit, as I mentioned, eventually we'll have the ability to reach directly to your zone leader. Right now that's still being established. However, we do have a link there to Ask Sergeant Harris where you can go ahead and submit your address and the problem, and I will get it to the zone leader, and I can assure you that we'll start looking at it. There are challenges, as you can imagine, to looking at any nuisance problem. Many times people in the community think because they see certain activity and maybe cars coming and going that it's definitely something criminal is occurring, and we certainly don't want to discount that. It's very possible there is something criminal occurring, and we need to look at that. However, in order to look at it, what we do is start looking at trying to break down when the activity is occurring, what type of activity it is, what type of vehicle, license plates we're talking, and we do some prior analysis of that. Because static surveillance, I can tell you, which is where we'll go out and we'll sit on a location to gather intelligence, is it taxes your resource and it's very expensive.
Yeah.
So we got to ensure that, and that's where our community comes into play. A recent incident you probably read about with the 11 arrests that we had at a local residential townhome. That all came about as a result of a resident providing information to us and working directly with us. And we're not asking you to put yourselves at risk. What we're asking you is just be our eyes and let us know what kind of stuff you're seeing. And if they report that to us and we work together as a team, then we can get more resources in there and we can pinpoint the problem. And that can lead to search warrants. It can lead to traffic stops. It can lead to arrests. It can lead to a number of things that will help resolve that nuisance problem. Yeah. We also work closely, if it's in a city area or in a county area, we work closely with the city or county officials and their folks who can help us work nuisance problems as well. If it's something pertaining to some kind of code enforcement issue or that type of thing, community preservation issue.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much I've only been here for a year in the community, and since I've been here so far, you guys have been to this particular house 6 times.
Definitely something we want to know about. Obviously, we've been there 6 times. In an ideal world, this is why the crime prevention unit and the sharing of information and the knowledge of how many times we've been out to a particular address and all, you might think, or the public perception might be that every deputy sheriff at the station knows exactly what's going on all the time about every single incident. Well, it's 24 hours a day, as I mentioned, 20,000 incidents, 56,000 calls for service. We don't always know exactly what's going on, but that's one of the reasons we formed this unit.
Sure.
We're going to be the sharers of information, the gatherers of information, the analyzers of information, and when we take that information and put it together as a whole, working with you, it's our goal that we can get to the root of what's going on. And that again, that Carl's KHTS reported on it, that arrest that we made of this theft ring, and quite frankly, of drug addicts and everything else, and the drug activity that was going on there, only happened as a result of the public. And of the crime prevention unit identifying and reacting to the public's request for help in that area, and then our detective bureau following up with operations in order to make the arrest.
Gotcha. So maybe after the meeting, I can get your card or something?
Yep, I'll give you my card.
Remember
that. Following and when they edit it, they can put this up on the screen at www.scvsheriff.com.
Great. And
you can go on the Ask Sergeant Harris link. I'll be happy to forward to the appropriate zone leader. And within months, we should have the ability where you can just type in your address and reach specifically directly to your zone leader. Jeff Jackson here tonight. He's one of our zone leaders. He's actually one of your zone leaders.
Yes,
Jeff Jackson. And
how you doing?
Yes, he's a Zone 8 zone leader. He's actually covering Zone 7 and 8 right now.
Great.
Because one of my zone leaders is out, but he's you can talk directly with Jeff as well. You're in? Well, I presume you're in his zone, one of his zones right now.
Yeah, I'm in off the Light Street and off of White's Canyon. So.
Very good. We'd be happy to know about it. We'd be happy to get that information from you following the meeting.
Harris.
And we'll take some action on it.
Did you want to say something? I'm sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, my name is Carlos Vargas, and I've been on this place for 4 years, and this been happening since last 3 years, and I don't see any result or what is going on with these neighbors.
I'm wondering if it's the address I'm thinking of, but I may have talked to you, Carlos, over there, now that you mentioned Blight. Okay. If it's the address I'm thinking of, we've already been there, as you mentioned a number of times. We've made a number of arrests out of there. We're not finished looking at that address, and I'm not going to publicly, but we're not. I can assure you, we'll talk afterward. If it's the address that I believe you're referring to, because Carlos, I believe I've talked to you over there, then we're not done at that address. I can assure you. Okay.
Yeah, my name is Rich Julian, and Carlos lives right next door to that address, and they seem to attract a lot of homeless people and what appear to be gangbangers, and they've put their trash out on the street in the past, and it just sits out there for weeks at a time. I don't think they're paying their rubbish collection, and of course the trash, collects insects and stinks up the neighborhood and everything. And
absolutely, those types of issues obviously will come in and we'll work directly with the city to resolve some of these nuisance-related issues, or the ones that don't rise to the level of criminal nature. The Sheriff's Department's perspective, we're going to come in and we're going to keep addressing the criminal issues until the problem is resolved. And sometimes it happens very quickly. Sometimes there's a number of arrests, but the problem persists, which is obviously the case here. And but I can assure you that we're not going away. We're going to continue to visit that issue and that location, and we're not going to go away until it's resolved. And there are times where we'll involve, if it's rent, we'll involve property managers, we'll involve property owners. We'll try and hold them accountable for their tenants. We have what's called the rent program we recently launched, which we give seminars on for landlords on how to best protect their property, how to work with us in order to make sure their property is environmentally, we call it crime prevention through environmental design, that their rental properties are set up with appropriate lighting and those types of things to where they can help us combat crime, and that they're appropriately screening their renters within the parameters of the law to ensure that they're meeting the qualifications of what the rent contract is. So that's another program we'd like you to take a look at, the rent program, for those who are listening or watching, or those who are in the audience who might be landlords. So But we'll keep working with you, and we'll talk to you after the meeting, definitely. Yeah, we want to get that resolved. So.
Sergeant Harris. Tony Natoli. I live in Saugus, California. On a more global thing, you mentioned that there was a drastic reduction in crime overall in the last year. And could you tell us what are the 1 or 2 or 3 major factors that contributed to that? And then secondly, I understand that identity theft and those types of cyber crimes are on the rise, and what we could possibly do to better prevent that.
Yes, good question. Well, for me to stand here and pinpoint one thing that's been the result of the reduction in crime, I'd be a genius. But what I can tell you is that there are many economists and crime analysts that are scratching their head. You know, we've been in a challenged economy. Generally, when you see a challenged economy, you see crime and trouble in the real estate market and that type of thing. You see that crime can rise. So there are many crime analysts that are wondering, you know, why are we seeing this reduction? You know, and we're not alone in seeing the reduction. We're seeing the reduction throughout the county. Although our arrests are up in Los Angeles County for the Sheriff's Department, we're seeing a reduction in crime. So depending on the correlation of, you know, how those correlate to one another, maybe it's because of the arrest, maybe it could be have a lot to do with in Santa Clarita with our partnerships and the things that we're doing. I like to think that, and Captain Becker's his initiative. Our station has literally transformed over the past 2 years into a very proactive and aggressive law enforcement program. And with the crime prevention unit and our juvenile intervention team who's addressing the juvenile drug challenges we're facing, and our SIT team and our detective bureau and all these resources that the county and the city of Santa Clarita are providing to us, you know, I think that's helping us out here, to be honest with you. But we're not out of the woods. I mean, we're not going to sit up here and tout, you know, crime, you know, drop in crime, because inevitably, you know, with every decrease, there's an increase. But what we want to look at, we're not going to sit up there and go, oh, it's all us, it's all great, because, you know, we want to make sure we maintain and or decrease crime year over year, and that's our goal right now. That's why we're looking at Part 1 crime, literally page by page through our digital reports. In the past, we didn't have the ability to look at reports digitally. We had 20,000 reports in a file. And if you're a detective or a crime prevention leader, zone leader, or you're a patrol deputy, and you want to look at a report, you had to go pull that paper report and read through it. Now it's at the deputy's fingertips, as with the Google crime mapping system. So I hope that answered your question. I don't know. Okay. And you know, I'll be happy to talk to you afterwards as well. I know we're on time constraints. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.